Okay, so what was the name of the talk? I just have to look once again. This talk is called, You Are an Expression of the Big Bang. Bang, bang, bang. Woohoo! Well, that's certainly for the narcissists. The narcissists are like the come and they're like, yes, I am an expression of the Big Bang. I am an expression of everything. You can see how like a non-duality could be very narcissistic. But yeah, basically that is what I mean actually. So what is non-duality? Non-duality is the attempt to express that this life is not separate. This life isn't somebody in relationship to life, somebody in relationship to things. There appears to be a character that's in relationship to things. So Lisa appears to be in relationship to the computer, to the dog, to the wind, to the sky. But outside of that, or inside of that, or besides that, there is something else happening. And non-duality is the reminder of that something else. And what that something else is that there is an experiencing now that isn't contained by the character. The character appears in that experiencing. And that experiencing is not a thing, and it's all things. And it's here, and it's now, and it's mysterious. So you might think that you're looking at me as a character, that you're looking at me as someone, whereas actually there is looking, and in that looking appears character, appears the computer, it appears time, appears everything. And that looking is perfectly still. That looking never moves, and you never lose the looking. And no matter where you go, if you run around a mountain, if you sit on top of Arunachala, if you skydive, if you sit on the moon, if you meditate, no matter what you do or where you go, there is always that experiencing. There is always consciousness. And that's not something that ever leaves you. That's the birthright of all things. And what people do is they think that they are conscious and that they're alive and that they die and that they turn off consciousness when they sleep and it comes back with them. And that consciousness believes to them that they're a separate soul existing inside the body and that they are conscious of things. Whereas non-duality points to this other possibility, that consciousness is actually inherent in everything. It's just so beautiful. It's really magical. The consciousness right now is free. It's like the get out of jail free. So if you've got a shit life at the moment and everything's going wrong and everything's collapsing, there is still consciousness. And this is the freedom. And the mistake the person makes is that they think they're conscious, they're alive, and they're moving through time. But who is moving through time? Who? Who are you? Who you believe yourself to be is a collection of thoughts, conditions, habits, genetics, emotions, and sensations arising, giving the appearance that you exist. Whereas in actuality, you don't exist. This is such freedom. It means that everyone, no matter what's happened, no matter how good they are or bad or evil or saintly, there is this freedom. So nothing really matters. It seems to matter on the human level, but nothing really matters on the ultimate level. It's like a blank slate, which is everything is coming and going in. You could imagine it like a movie screen. So this film is projected onto a movie screen, and consciousness is allowing the film as the still screen in which allows the film to move on. But the whole time it's still, it never moves. It's there containing everything, but it's also experiencing the film. So then you could imagine also that, like when you're watching a film and all these characters are going through all these problems, like you're not involved with it. You know that you're not one of the characters. You're watching the film. Like you're sitting in the audience watching the film. And consciousness is like that, but it doesn't know it in an intellectual way. So it doesn't sit there and think, I'm sitting in an audience watching a film. Or I'm sitting in this human's body watching from this human's experience. It just is there. It just is itself. But in the human world, what everybody's focused on is what you think, what you feel, what you know intellectually. But what is it that you know? What else is it that's known? And this knowing is all things. So when you look at me, you think, I know Lisa, she is a wonderful person. She is a funny person. She is a blonde person. She is a white person. She has a dog. She is English. And that's what you think you know about Lisa. And you think, I'm seeing Lisa. But when you're looking at me and you're making judgments out of me and putting me into a story time, into a storyline, not a story time, although it could be a story time. Maybe some of you are making up some fantasies about me. When you're putting me into a storyline, there is this consciousness that's experiencing it. So when you're looking at me and you're judging me, and that's not a criticism, judgment is part of being human, but when you're looking at me and judging me, notice that there is also the consciousness of the wall, and it's known, the wall, but yet you don't have to think about it. You don't think, white wall behind Lisa, white wall behind Lisa. There is simply a consciousness of it. It's simply appearing and knowing. And it's the same with Lisa. So you've got your thoughts about Lisa, but then there's also this consciousness of Lisa. And this consciousness has no judgments. It has no qualms. Even if I stole all your money, stole your husband, killed your dog, shat on your doorstep, can't think of what else, blew up your house. On the human level, you might hate me, but then there's another part of you that never judges, that doesn't have any qualms, that's just holding Lisa in love, in absolute love. And it's this shift. It's not like completely you losing the human part. It's this shift back to knowing yourself and being yourself as consciousness. And in consciousness, as consciousness, everything is passing through freely. It's like connected to source, and it's holding and loving everything. It doesn't mean that your character doesn't have judgment. I think many of us made this mistake, and I certainly in the beginning made this mistake a lot, and didn't act enough on the human level, and then problems arose. Because on the human level, the human needs to make judgment and say, you are not a nice person. You are sucking my energy. You are a very nice person. You are a very rich person. You are good for business. You are good for a lover. Whatever. So it goes around and does those judgments. And there's nothing wrong with that. But when we're having these waking up experiences and this shift is happening. There can be a period where you're so immersed in not being anything that the human loses the ability to do that. But then there needs to be a balance where the human comes back and makes the judgments and knows what is good and what is bad and what it likes and what it doesn't like. But you don't need to worry about that. It all happens. It's just now at the moment what I'm doing is trying to point out what you're not, and therefore leaving you at what you are. Yeah, so it's this movement back to who you are. And then it's also seeing that in a way, there is no consciousness. Like there is no thing that you call consciousness that's separate from all things. In a way, like life is consciousness, like life is conscious itself. It's so mind-boggling because it feels so convincing that these bodies are conscious and they're looking at things, but actually consciousness is appearing in all things. And it's just having an experience from a human perspective. That's not something that you can grasp intellectually. It's something that can be seen and can be known. Again, it's not intellectually, although intellectual understanding will come with it, but the seeing is energetical, you could say, or it's like just this shift in perspective from the perspective of being limited to a perspective of not being limited. But that's not a human perspective. It's such love. It doesn't belong to the human. It affects the human, this realization, and changes the human. But the human is still the human. It's beyond the human. So right now, looking is in all things. Looking is in everything. And so how's that related to the Big Bang? So on the human level, so in one sense, like from the consciousness perspective, nothing's ever happened and the Big Bang's never happened and all there is right now. But in the apparent story of things, the way that life works is it also reflects oneness. So it's not just in non-duality and in this pointing out of consciousness that it reflects oneness. There is also this other way in which life reflects oneness. Is in life, it's this amazing appearance of one thing transforming into another thing, into another thing, into another thing. So in the end, you could say there are no solid things. There is movement of energy. So at the moment, we have drink transforming to body, and then it will transform into pee-pee or body or blood, I don't know. And then if I urinate, that will transform into fertilizer, into another form of food. Or maybe it will transform into chemicals, like it'll get burnt up by chemicals, who knows. Like it'll get put into the sewer works, I mean. But whatever the case, is one thing is always moving to the other, to the other, to the other. So this moment now, this is so amazing, is a result in the apparent storyline of everything that's come back before and right back to the Big Bang, if the Big Bang did ever happen. But it makes sense the Big Bang would happen because it's like an explosion out of nothingness, and then all this energy is like getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and then at some point it will go back into nothing. And it's kind of like a reflection of this nothing and everything, that everything appears from this nothing. But anyway, I'm sure one day we'll be way more advanced intellectually and we'll be able to explain it better. But so every movement you have now isn't a free will and your movement. It's a movement at the Big Bang. It's the movement of the dinosaurs. It's the movement of the Nondualities, or however you say it, Nondualities. I can't say it. It's a movement of every period and everything that's ever happened, of the Ice Age, of all the comets that have hit Earth. And then you are speaking that. You're this intelligence that's speaking that. And there's nobody who is acting independently. So there's actually nobody to blame. And there's nobody that's guilty. That's really beautiful, because everything that you do, everything that anybody does, is a manifestation of everything that came before, which is absolute forgiveness. And this is how we truly forgive ourselves as humanity for all the atrocities that we've committed. That nobody ever chose to do anything. They're a result of everything that came before. That's not talking on how we conduct our society. If someone's acting very badly, that we don't put them in prison. It's not talking about how we deal with people's difficult actions, but it's saying that nobody is guilty and nobody is responsible. So this is like forgiveness without forgiving. It's not that you've got to actively try to forgive someone or yourself. It's that it couldn't have been any other way. So everything you do, everything that's happened, everything that's going to happen, is a result of everything else. That's so beautiful. So when you get up tonight, leave the computer and go into the kitchen and talk to your partner, or go and read your kids a good night story, or go for a walk, whatever you do, that's not your choice to do it. That's not your free will to do it. That's happening. It's a happening. It's a happening. It's a happening, and it's a movement from the Big Bang. So if you choose to go for a walk, that's a result of the Big Bang. If you choose to go to the toilet, that's a result of the Big Bang. It turns into the little bang. Bang. Little bang, bang, bang. Yes, nice. Okay.